Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of We Love Languages. With me today, I have two people, Natalie Gillentine and Philip Irons. And today, we'll be asking them some questions about their experience with Spanish, since they're both kind of going into the healthcare fields. So first, I'll introduce Natalie. Natalie is a sophomore majoring in nursing, and she is studying Spanish, and she is also a part of the Honors College as well. Philip, who goes by Skip, is a senior, and he is majoring in Spanish language and culture. And Skip also has 10 years experience in both urban and rural EMS, and he holds multiple advanced certifications related to EMS. And he has served as a supervisor and field training officer, teaching at the service and collegiate levels. He's also a member of the incoming fundraising He's also a member and the incoming fundraising coordinator for Alpha Epsilon Delta Pre-Professional Health Honor Society. He's also a member of Phi Kappa Phi Academic Honor Society. He's an ambassador with College of Arts, Sciences, and Engineering on campus, and he's also an Eagle Scout. So I'm so happy to have y'all here today with me and just to chat about learning languages. So we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. So why did you decide to take Spanish and specifically focus on healthcare Spanish? And Natalie, I'll start with you.
I actually didn't want to take Spanish. My advisor told me that I could take 101 instead of taking English 232. So I was like, okay, let's do it. But as soon as I started it, I actually realized that I needed it because in high school I had 2 basic years, but I didn't remember anything of it. So it actually helps a lot when it comes to a nurse's perspective.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. What about you, Skip?
So I started out in EMS, like you said just a minute ago, and I worked in Montgomery for about the first 10 years. I actually worked a little more than a decade, but about the first 9 to 10 years of my experience was in mostly urban, some rural EMS in Montgomery. And we had an entire population that spoke Spanish only. And because they were Spanish only speaking, we frequently ran into issues both on the ambulance and in the ER with getting anybody to translate or being able to communicate with these patients. Most of the time the situations weren't overwhelmingly severe, but occasionally it would be a major impediment to patient care that would delay things that were necessary because nobody could explain it. The patient couldn't consent. They didn't understand what was going on. And if you don't understand what's going on and you're already scared, it creates a bad situation.
Yeah.
So when I came back to school and I decided that I kind of wanted to go pre-med, I dabbled with a couple things, but I knew that one of the things I primarily wanted to do was fix that language barrier, at least in the situations that I was involved in.
Yeah, that's great. And I can imagine in a situation like that, it's very difficult on the patient and also on y'all as well, trying to navigate that situation.
It is. It creates a barrier that's a little bit nerve-wracking for us. I will say that most of the Hispanic-only patients that Hispanic patients that are Spanish-speaking only that I've encountered are remarkably patient and gracious with the interaction, but there's still communication that has to go on. Even if they're as chill can be, even while in the midst of something, there's still communication that has to transpire, and without the ability to speak or a translator on hand or something, it creates a bad situation.
Mm-hmm. So you've kind of talked about it a little bit, but what role or career do you plan to have as a healthcare professional, and how does Spanish tie into it?
Well, like I was telling him, I want to go ahead and get my RN and then come back and do my family nurse practitioner. And then with that, I want to travel a little bit out of the country because it pays very well.
And I mean, it's traveling.
Yeah. But I did work as a CNA, and we didn't have any Spanish-speaking patients, but just the language barrier between an 80-year-old person and them speaking English, I could only imagine how hard it was for a Spanish-speaking patient because they have no idea what's going on. So I want to be that nurse that people are comfortable with, so I can go in there and they can get care fast, and they're not just having to wait on everybody with their phone on Google Translate.
Yeah.
So.
And technology can fail.
Yes.
But if you have those skills, you might forget a word or something, but you have those skills and you learned it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, actually, nurses come in really handy in that capacity. I brought a Spanish-only speaking burn patient up to UAB, and it was only one of the nurses that was the only one in the burn unit that could speak Spanish and communicate with the patient. So
It's crazy.
so do you plan to still do EMS in?
So I'm currently active in EMS, and once you get into medical school, you can't really work very much. So fingers crossed, medical school will be a thing.
Yeah.
You don't know until you've got an acceptance letter in your hand, and it's a pretty difficult application process and path to follow. However, Spanish will go from being EMS for me to being more physician focused as things transition. But hopefully medical school's on the table. I've got like anybody else, I've got a long list of schools that I'd kind of like to attend, not the least of which is UAB and USA here in Alabama.
Yeah, that's going to be good. And I mean, having Spanish is a skill. I'm sure that elevates you more.
Fingers crossed. I hope so. I hope so.
So, I know y'all both did the Spanish clinical encounters yesterday. Can you describe what a Spanish clinical encounter activity is and what role each of you played?
So our clinical encounters, at least from my perspective, because you were one of the patients, Dr. Nate gives us a list of things that you would do in a routine wellness checkup. So name, date of birth, stuff like that, what's wrong with them, everything. So we get all of that ready and we prepare our questions and we go in just like we would do it anywhere else. And it's very nerve-wracking because you don't know if you're going to be with Dr. Nate or another student. So you just go in there as prepared as you can. But what I did, I just asked probably 25 basic questions. And then once I got those answers written down, I went back through and I confirmed everything with them. So if I had something wrong, they would be like, no, and then they'd tell me the correct answer. So from my perspective, it was difficult, but from y'all's perspective, it was probably easier.
Oh yeah, nobody's giving me a grade for doing it, so it's a little bit less nerve-wracking, right? From my perspective, it's a pretty interesting experience. You get a chance to work with the students that are learning Spanish for healthcare. You get the chance to see how much they've gained just inside a semester, which, by the way, you kind of downplay it like, I could only do this or ask this many questions, but think about like before the program, before doing some of that stuff, even just the ability to interact in Spanish is amazing. And like, if you've ever had the experience of like trying to communicate with somebody regardless of what their language was and not being able to do it, just that simple breakthrough that you guys have in like the first semester is amazing. So it doesn't feel like much, but I promise it's so much and it means a lot to other people.
I like them. I think they're very fun. And this is the only school I know of doing it because we have the sim lab. I don't know of any other schools doing healthcare Spanish in person. So.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that we have that program. I would like to see it grow quite a bit, but hopefully that takes off.
Yeah. And it's the fact that it's done all in Spanish, so you don't speak a word of English. So that's pretty great that if you're only in Spanish 101 for healthcare, but you know enough Spanish to conduct a whole checkup in Spanish. So I think that's pretty cool.
When you build those latent skills of having to work around limited vocabulary or different or different contexts because the scenarios change. It's pretty cool. And from my perspective, I really enjoy it. I get a chance to work with the students that are learning. I get a chance to like tutor on vocabulary a little bit. I get a chance to give feedback, to offer resources that have helped me. Like, I really like it.
Yeah.
I like it too. My first one was with a girl from here, so she spoke it kind of like we would speak it. But when I did it with Dulce yesterday, having somebody that's fluent in Spanish, like that's what they grew up with, it's very different. And I feel like that helped me a lot.
Yeah. That was a good experience. So, you kind of talked about it, how you felt before, after, and during the clinical encounter. What were the main reasons why you felt kind of nervous, or it was like more difficult for you?
I was originally nervous because I didn't know how it was going to be laid out. So the first time we showed up, Dr. Nate was in there, of course, and she was super excited for us. And I figured she would sit in there with us, which there's 3 people going on at a time, so she's just kind of walking around. And then once I started, I felt better because the patients that I was talking to, they boost your confidence. No matter how bad you are at Spanish, they're like, you did great. So then the second time yesterday, I walked in there with my paper 15 minutes early. And Dr. Nate was like, okay, let's go. And I just talked and everything. And it went a lot better. I don't think either one of them went bad for anybody because Dr. Nate was super proud of everybody, even if you said 2 sentences. But I think overall it was the confidence boost that really helped me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't nervous, Skip?
Me? I don't know. Not necessarily nervous, but you walk into it's a new situation. You've not met any of these people before, really. At least at first. You may have a repeat student later, but because we're in different years in school and we're in different classes, you've not met these people, and you really want to create a positive atmosphere and not make it difficult for the student that you're working with. So there is a little bit of pressure from that perspective.
Yeah.
But I would say overall it's extremely enjoyable. It gives you a chance to practice, it gives you a chance to give feedback, and there's a solid give and take relationship in that. And I would say that pretty much anybody who's involved in it from the upperclassman perspective or Dr. Nate is just excited to be doing it. So that's pretty much what it is. You're just excited. I mean, you may be a little bit apprehensive about what's going on, but you're really excited to be there.
And it's such a positive experience, I feel like. And even doing the simulation as a patient, I feel like you still kind of learn from y'all who are conducting it. So it's fun. I like it. So, as a future Spanish-speaking healthcare professional, how will you aim to connect with your patients and empathize with them?
Like I said earlier, my main thing is that I want those patients to rely on me and not sit there and wait on somebody else because, like in the nursing home, nobody there spoke Spanish. So if we had somebody come in for rehab, nobody knew anything. And I didn't know anything then either because I didn't remember anything from high school. So I just want those patients that come in expecting to sit there all day and all night, I want to be able to give them the care that I would give you in the hospital here because I can talk to them too.
Yeah. Well, a lot of attention is given to like acute scenarios, whether it's a 20-minute office clinic visit or whether or not it's an emergency room visit, but not a whole lot is given to exactly what you're talking about, which is that long-term care, whether it's on a med-surg floor, whether or not it's in a nursing home, where you really need a bilingual, to some degree, healthcare provider or tech or somebody around to kind of communicate. Because family can't be there 24/7. And it
especially with COVID lockdown. They couldn't come in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when we first started all that stuff, it was nuts.
Yeah.
But I will say that in addition to just simply the language, you pick up a lot of the cultural aspects and social aspects in Hispanic countries or in Spanish-speaking countries from the program here. So from that perspective, it's kind of subtle that it all kind of slides in and builds up, and it's like anything else. You don't really realize what you know until you start writing it all down, but you kind of build up that cultural competency in addition to the linguistic competency.
Which has a lot to do with speaking the language too, because you can be asking someone a question, but you also have to know like the cultural norms and what is okay and what's not okay for the language. So
or how to ask things politely and not come off sounding like a jerk.
Yes, absolutely. So Skip, you're a senior and Natalie, you're a sophomore. So Skip, I know your time is coming to an end soon, but what has been your favorite thing about studying Spanish here at UNA?
My favorite thing so far is how everybody in the foreign language department is always like super excited. Like I said earlier, the whole confidence boost, Spanish table, I did it every week. I was the only student. It was me and 4 other Spanish majors, so they were helping me with my homework, talking to me, I would get something wrong, and they'd be like, it's okay, we don't even know that anymore. So it's just the confidence and the respect that I'm getting from older students here when I'm 18 years old. And I mean, they don't owe me anything, but they treat me like I'm one of them, even though I'm a beginner. So,
You are one of us.
yeah.
I thought you were saying you were a beginner. I was like, wait, what?
I am.
I honestly, the same thing. The Spanish department and the foreign languages department is much more of a family. There's a closer connection that I have here with the students than in any of my other classes, really.
Yeah.
And a very different relationship with my instructors. They set up an academically challenging environment, but they seem to truly celebrate your successes along with you.
Yes.
And that's the same. I was talking to my physics professor today, and it's the same way. There's that same type of interpersonal, like celebrating successes relationship that I truly appreciate. UNA is really good about that in general.
Yeah.
But more so than that, my professors feel, they're professors first, but they feel like friends, honestly.
Yeah.
If you mess up, they're there to take the time to work with you. If you do really well, they're quick to pat you on the back. Like, you really get that interaction, like a sense of community and advancing over the course of time. It is a very different experience to a lot of programs. And I really appreciate that tight-knit community feel. The students in the Spanish department I'm way closer with than almost any of my other classes.
Yeah, that's great to have a sense of community, especially when learning a new language. It can be very difficult, and you can at times not feel confident, but it's good to have like a good community that you can practice with or just rely on each other to kind of boost your confidence up. So what has been the most challenging and most rewarding aspect of learning Spanish?
The most challenging thing for me is listening and comprehending it, then translating it to English, and then thinking of what I'm going to say in English and translating it back. I really struggle with that whole part. I can read it, I can write it, I can do all of that, but I really struggle hearing it. So here, where you have people from all over, you have a bunch of different levels. So I would hear you and I would understand you, but like with Dulce, it was completely different. And Dr. Nate knew that, so she was just standing there smiling at me. But the most rewarding part of it is getting that experience, because I wouldn't get it anywhere else. Even with just a Spanish class online, I'm taking it online, I'm still getting to come here and get that experience.
Right.
And talk to Dr. Nate. We can do Zoom calls. I go to her office sometimes. So just having that experience really rewards you for actually learning another language.
Yeah. Trust me, we've all been there when we just can't translate from English to Spanish, or it just all gets jumbled up together.
Yeah.
So,
Or you sit there trying to get the words to go into a different language and everything's hung up. Or you forget the word for an entire concept or a thing, and you're just looking at it like, there is no word in my mind for this.
yes.
Yep. Been there, done that.
Yeah. What about you, Skip?
Let's see, what most challenging and most rewarding aspect of learning a new language?
Yeah.
So the most challenging for me is that I tend to be a perfectionist by nature. So getting over that and really speaking and interacting and just putting stuff out there was a humongous challenge initially. Like it was pretty brutal. It was grueling just to kind of get past some of that stuff. It helped me grow as a person eventually, but it is not fun to be embarrassed over and over again and make mistakes.
Yes.
But the flip side of that is also the most rewarding aspect, which is that now I have friends and tutors in different countries. I have a couple different friends in Guatemala, and these are people that are amazing people that I never ever would have met if I didn't speak Spanish. So it creates that ability to build those connections. I have a friend who is a medical student in Guatemala, and he and I worked together on medical Spanish.
Yeah.
And I never could have developed that relationship with him where, we can text back and forth on WhatsApp or whatever if it hadn't been for the fact that I speak Spanish.
That's true. Yeah. It really opens doors to different cultures and meeting new people, different people that you wouldn't meet, if you couldn't communicate with them. So, okay. So my last question for y'all. You kind of touched on traveling earlier, and I love to travel as well. So if you could travel to a Spanish-speaking country right now, like I'm talking about right this second, like leave, pack your bags, and like hop on a flight.
And skip finals.
Yes.
Okay.
Just up and leave. Which country would it be and why?
I don't ever think about this because I've only ever been to Mexico on a cruise,
Mm-hmm.
and even then, I tried to speak Spanish like in the taxi, and they just kind of looked at me. But I did some research, and I would want to go to Spain not as just a traveler, but as a nurse because they have such high respect for all of their nurses.
Okay.
Like here, we have so many. They're like, okay, you go to work and you go home, you do all this, but there. They're like praising them, telling them thank you, bringing them stuff at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if you're going to pay all this money to help people, you should get that backup from your community.
Yeah.
And apparently that's what Spain's good at.
Mhm.
So
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Fun
Maybe.
fact.
I don't know. I have a list of a few different places I would like to go. I have a trip planned to Guatemala this summer for a couple months. So probably Guatemala.
Yeah.
The mix of indigenous cultures and the variances from area to area and the indigenous languages, like Guatemala seems pretty awesome. I'll let you know in a few months when I get there.
Yes, please do.
And it's pretty. It's so
Mhm.
pretty.
Yeah, it is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to spend a few weeks on a lake studying Spanish at one place, and I'm going to move to Xela, or Quetzaltenango, which is the second largest city in Guatemala. It's up in the Western Highlands.
Okay.
So
That's going to be fun.
You have to
Real-
take a bunch
Yeah.
of pictures.
Yes.
the pictures of the lake, it's El Lago Atitlan, but it is absolutely gorgeous, like breathtaking views. I'm hoping it's just as pretty when I get there
Yeah.
I'm sure
as it
will
is
be.
in the pictures.
Oh.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah. Okay, bonus question. I lied. That wasn't the last question. So you said Spain, Natalie. You said Guatemala. Skip. What food are y'all like dying to try when y'all go there?
I don't know. Probably everything that like we would eat here at Rosie's because I know it's going to be 10 times better.
Yeah.
Because we have Tex-Mex, and I'm really close with a family from Mexico. They moved up here a few years ago, and she would always just make all this stuff. I mean, meat, rice, beans, everything. Then she'd just roll it up in a tortilla and be like, "Here's breakfast." So I just want to. Anything and everything,
Yeah.
because it can't be bad.
Yeah.
You know.
Hmm. I get that. I just love food, so I think that would be my answer to any and everything, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know that I have one thing that I'm most excited to try. I'm kind of going for the complete culture immersion. I'm not necessarily going with a school group or anything like that. So I'm kind of dropping in mostly by myself and then making my way to some of these places. So I want to try all of the new foods. I want to meet all of the new people and experience all the new customs. Like, I'm just excited about the entire experience. I don't like, there's no
Yeah.
one thing that I've picked out right now because I'm like a little kid in a candy shop.
Yeah, there's too much. There's too many options. Yeah. Well, thank you both for taking time out of your day to meet with me and share about your experiences learning Spanish. And I wish you both the best of luck in becoming great Spanish-speaking healthcare professionals in the future.
Appreciate that. Thank you.